So namaste and welcome to this Spanish Satsang. Thank you. And we have some questions that we're going to read out first, and I'll answer, and then we'll have some time to open it up for questions live here on the session. So whenever you're ready, Becky, if you'd like to get started.
First question, when I enter meditation, sometimes there is like a fall into a void in which breathing stops, similar to the beginning of sleep, but much more conscious than in the waking state. This state of emptiness lasts only a few seconds to return to the state of normal meditation. What does this jump in consciousness from one state to another represent? Is it a simple biological process? There are many drugs and certain practices, such as deprivation of sleep, light, that produce a sense of state of disidentification with the ego. Aren't enlightenment states just another psychotic and permanent state of mind? How to prove otherwise? Thank you very much, Helen, for your time and your interest in others.
Thank you. It's a wonderful question. So enlightenment or awakening is not a state of the mind. It is a recognition of who we already are. And so we can recognize it because it's not something that's happening to the mind and body. So when I recognize my own emptiness, my own consciousness to be infinite and always here, it is not something that is happening to my mind and body. However, it seems to have an effect upon the mind and body. It seems to bring about some first temporary states and then ever more permanent ways of being, states of being. So as we begin to recognize who we really are, then one of the things we're going to find is that the body begins to relax. It begins to slow down. The tension, the fear that has been in the body begins to leave. And at first we'll notice this in meditation. And it might feel like we have gone somewhere. But really, it's just the separate sense of a someone that has temporarily disappeared. And with that, the body can sometimes even stop breathing. The real consciousness, the infinite consciousness, doesn't breathe, doesn't sleep, doesn't change. And it is always eternally present. And when our separate sense of a someone disappears, there's just the infinite consciousness. And at first, that really begins to show itself only in meditation. But eventually, it will be like that more and more often. And eventually, that will be the whole waking state, this very deep, quiet state of the body and mind, because they're clearly reflecting the infinite consciousness that we really are. So awakening is not a state, but it seems to reflect as states in the body and mind. It's important to be clear about that. How to prove it's not a state? Well, if you begin to question and look directly through self-inquiry or in our meditation, we'll see something that is not a state. It's not changing. It's not coming and going. That which is aware of these words right now, you that are listening to these words, you're not a someone. You are that in which all forms appear, seem to be. So through inquiry is the quickest way, self-inquiry, to recognize who you are. All states in meditation come and go. but that in which the body and mind are sitting in meditation, that is what is real and is always here. So it's good to know the difference. Eventually, the recognition of who we are is stable, consistent, and effortless. And the sense of a separate someone can function in front of the infinite consciousness. So right now, I am effortlessly still, always present, infinite. And I also seem to be someone talking to you right now. And they aren't in conflict anymore. Sometimes the sense of someone has gone, sometimes it's here. Makes no difference to me. So I hope that helps. Thanks, Becky.
My question is how to address all this that does not allow me to see myself as I am. It seems that I think I am the body, a personality, but I do not have the security of the spirit that I am my real self, which is what I most desire. I still feel anger, envy, special, jealousy, despite my constant spiritual search, but I do not give up my purpose to go within, but I do not know how to do it. For the moment, it looks like a struggle. I fall and I get up many times, and this is exhausting. Can you do me a favor, the favor to talk a little about it and help me with this? Your words are very assertive and fill my soul very much. Thank you, Helen. Every time I get up, you are in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you. And let me start by saying that what you're experiencing is very, very normal. And the most important thing I want to say is not to blame yourself because this is happening. So each one of us has to come to see who we really are, what we really are, infinite, formless consciousness, as I'm calling it here today. And at the same time, we'll become more aware of who we are not. So I'm not a separate person. I'm not a someone. I'm not an object. And as we see clearer who we are, where we are still thinking in terms of being a someone, a person, we'll find that this becomes more and more of a problem, this separation thinking. So we have tools that help us decrease and dissolve the way that we think in separation. And those are looking at the beliefs through contemplation. So each emotion has a story behind it. For me, the more I saw who I really am, the more my separate sense of a someone became freaked out, angry, jealous, all of those things that you listed here. And contemplation then is looking at each emotion. Let's take anger, you said here, and looking at what anger is trying to tell me inside. So each emotion is hiding a story. And the story for me with anger was, I can't get what I want. Fear was telling me I'm not safe. I don't feel safe. Jealousy or envy was telling me that what I want or need someone else has. And all of these are ways of thinking in separation as a separate person. So there are some videos on the YouTube channel, both the Spanish and English, that have examples of contemplation. But really, we just turn that into a question. Is it really true that I'm not safe? Is it really true I can't get what I want? Is it really true they have it and I don't? And sitting with that and challenging the belief, then we begin to see it's not true. I am already free. and that we're just dissolving these energies, these old ways of thinking. Just because we see who we are doesn't mean we automatically change how we think. Sometimes we have to do a little extra work there. As you dissolve these old ways of thinking, who you really are, what you really are, is going to become more and more obvious. And we don't need to strive hard so much to recognize that or work hard at that. There's only the infinite consciousness, and as we let go of these ideas, the old way of thinking, it will reveal itself. The infinite consciousness will reveal itself. Most of all, to let go of the story that you might be saying right now to yourself, that is that all of these emotions are coming up because you're doing something wrong in your awakening. I told myself that story for a long time and held myself back. So if you can see that it isn't anything that you're doing wrong, it's just the process. I see clearer who I am and clearer who I am not. And then just gently dissolving these energies. So hopefully that helps, but check out the videos on contemplation as well. Thanks, Becky.
Hi, Helen. If enlightenment is to be free from the feeling of being someone separate, then the question would be, who is the one who is free from that feeling of separateness? I hope the question is understood. Greetings.
Thank you. I love it. Yeah. A separate person, a separate someone always feels limited, always feels generally unworthy, not good enough, and usually very unsafe, fearful of being judged, etc. So if you can see that that's not who you are, then this question, this direct question, is who's watching that sense of separate someone? What is watching that someone? That person is just the energy, it's just some thoughts. And if you can take attention to what's noticing, we might find something very exciting there, something very different there. And I ask myself this question, what's watching? What is already free? There was an opening, a sense of something very vast, something that isn't a thing. And I couldn't describe it really at the time. And some fear came up inside initially also, but a recognition of there's something in which my mind, my body, even my sense of a separate being is appearing inside. And just wanting to see that, how to recognize it, temporarily exclude anything that is not permanent. So anything that is a phenomenon, my mind, my body, my emotions, thoughts, sensations, even the waking state itself is not permanent. What is it in which all of those are happening? Because it's here right now, it's watching even the waking state. And it's so quiet and constant that we never notice it. It's already free. It's not even trying to wake up. It is taking the shape of a human being so that it can recognize itself, but it's already free. So just discarding temporarily anything that is not here always, the body, thoughts, emotions, everything, and it will get clearer and clearer. Thanks, Becky.
Listening to this teaching, the Heart Sutra immediately came to mind. Emptiness is form, form is emptiness. Question for Helen. Could this be used as an analogy of this teaching, that of lucid dreaming, I meant living completely this dream that we call life, without attachment or rejection of its content, but knowing and recognizing at all times its dreamlike nature. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Yeah. So in a lucid dream, I'm dreaming, but I know I'm dreaming, and I can never forget that. And then in awakening, I know that the manifestation is a dream, but I'm still in love with it anyway, perhaps even more in love with it now than I ever was. So I know that everything I'm looking at is not what it seems to be. I know it's all myself. It's all consciousness or presence, whatever we call it. It's all divine. Even the things that don't seem divine, it's all just this. And yet we still host satsang, we still go to class, we still help other beings, we still look after the body, we still go to work, raise the children, all of those things. Why? Because just because it's a dream made out of the dreamer. So illusion is made out of reality. It's not different to reality. And awakening, when it really blossoms fully, will there'll be a falling back in love with the dream and all the ways it appears, and having a very rich and full, intimate with reality human life. Human life is the expression of that divine self and must be honored like everything else in manifestation. If everything is Christ in form or Buddha in disguise, there's nothing boring then, nothing mundane at all. So absolutely, it's a good analogy. And even when we're dreaming, we can enjoy the dream, right? For as long as it lasts. Thanks, Becky.
This is about the satsang. This problem belongs to no one. I am confused by the contradiction between the first and second answer. In the first one, it is said that if I am the universe, there is nothing that can be against what I want to do, and I just have to see how I am blocking myself from simply doing what I do. But already to the second answer, it's like there is nothing you can do but observe what is happening, taking away the idea of doing something, that there are no decisions that we make. It's confusing to me. How do you understand these two different things together?
Yeah, so in the first one, we use the word doing very lightly. So just to see what beliefs I have that are blocking manifestation is enough, just to see, oh, I don't feel good enough or deserving of this thing happening or awakening happening, is going to remove the blocks to the manifestation occurring, awakening, deepening. And in the second one, we're saying that there is nothing you can do because you're not a someone. You are that which is only seeing. So really, both answers are saying the same thing. Just treating the word doing very lightly in the first one. You've said here, there can be nothing against what I want to do, and only to see how I'm blocking myself. So there's the key, only to see. As I, the infinite self, become aware of some belief that was diminishing the manifestation, I'll be free of it. It's only the idea that we've ever done anything that has got in the way, actually. So just to see that I'm always seeing and only seeing is the key. Both answers are saying the same thing, but they might sound different. So I hope that helps. Thanks, Becky.
As Noumenon, and knowing that the ultimate reality is empty, the uplift of aspirations or intentions with which we activate the causes and conditions that are waiting to be considered to distort reality generate the phenomena that we perceive. Do we determine reality?
Could you just read that one more time?
Yeah. As Noumenon, and knowing that the ultimate reality is empty, the uplift of aspirations or intentions with which we activate the causes and conditions that are waiting to be considered to distort reality generate the phenomena that we perceive, question mark. Do we determine reality?
Thank you. So we do determine reality, but not as a separate person. You are already infinite and free, and all manifestation is arising out of you. And in any moment, the highest manifestation possible is spontaneously occurring. And all we're doing in our satsang is coming to see, first of all, who we are, really who we are, and then any beliefs that are in the way of living an abundant life. As I realize I'm infinite and formless, that has to begin to affect all of my existence. And my life will have to come to eventually reflect all manner of abundance, all ways that abundance can show up. So we do determine reality, if I'm understanding you correctly. And we're doing that in two ways. Firstly, unconsciously by believing I am a separate person who isn't good enough or whatever belief. And secondly, by recognizing who we really are, that is infinite and is abundance, abundance of everything we could ever want inside: love, peace, joy, an abundance of resources outside, money, time, etc. So it's just really to see how we are unconsciously determining reality, and that then stops, that fades away. So I hope I got your question right, but please do ask again if it wasn't where you were going with it. Thanks, Becky.
When we disincarnate, does the mind remain the same or does it disappear? When I meditate and the mind is silenced, I notice that I feel, but without the mind, I am like a void. I am nothing. Is that correct? Shall I read that again? Is it okay?
It's okay, thanks, yeah. So it depends on what you mean by mind. So the way I'm using the word mind, I mean a bunch of thoughts. If we look at what our mind actually is, it's just a sequence of thoughts one after the other. And when we disincarnate, with the soul or the individuality leaves the physical body, the soul isn't separate to anything else. It's just an individual expression of the infinite formlessness. And it has within it latent seeds of illusion. So I can leave this body and still not feel safe or good enough, and I still might not have recognized who I really am. But when I do recognize who I really am, those seeds of illusion are destroyed and can never come back. So the mind disappears every time we're not thinking. So if you're just listening to me now, the mind is gone, right? There's no thought. Mind is nowhere. And then a thought appears, and then a thought disappears. But in awakening, in the fullest awakening, the mind goes silent completely, eventually, when we've seen that everything the mind is thinking about is our own self. So the mind is thinking about things that don't exist separately to me, thinking about other people, other things, things I want or need. But when I've seen all of those things to be my own self, what's the point in thinking about them? And eventually this just dissolves the mind anyway. This allows the mind to go back into silence, which it wants to do. It's restless because of this idea that there are things to think about. So what you are here, you've pointed to the word void, formlessness, emptiness, nothingness, consciousness. It is who you really are. You're not a form. And ultimately, there are no forms either. All forms are formlessness in disguise. So this void that you recognize is your true nature. And then it disguises itself as all of these things. And even as a person trying to reach awakening. So hope that helps. Thank you, Becky.
Helen, thank you. I wanted to ask, if there is no separate being, then there is no good or bad. Wars and peace is one because there is no separation. There is only one, unity, that is. No one can die or live because the ego is illusionary, in brackets, the person. Therefore, no one leaves a better or worse world because the world is also illusionary. Everything that appears has no nature of its own. It comes from emptiness, simply appears and disappears. It is an illusionary game, and each character gives it reality by believing ourselves a body and a person with beliefs, prejudices. We judge the world. I also believe that we do not have free will, even recognizing ourselves as the oneness, because there is no one there. I would love your advice. Is it something like that, or am I wrong? Thanks again, and blessings.
Wonderful, wonderfully said. Yeah, there is no world, there is no ego, there is no mind, there is no form that is separate to or different to the real self, the infinite self. All of this, including the separate sense of a person, the mind, wars, peace, everything is all the one self in disguise. And the one self, when it appears as a human being, it takes the shape of a human being. It can seem to get very, very lost and starts to imagine itself to be a tiny, tiny, small being in a very large universe. And when it believes thoughts that it's separate, it starts to feel unsafe. And it starts to do things to try to feel safer. And it gets further and further lost in the illusion and may even try to harm other beings, other forms, in an attempt to control and feel safe. So when it doesn't recognize itself, it can do some horrible things. When it does recognize itself, it can do some amazing things. But it's all from the highest to the lowest human actions. It's all the one self. And as you pointed out here, yeah, we don't even have free will as to whether we are going to wake up and recognize who we are. Even that is inevitable and is already happening because the one self is infinite and powerful and all-knowing. And when it wants to recognize itself, there's nothing that can stop it. So when I really understood this, there was such joy that came from it because I realized I couldn't fail at awakening. That I could only slow it down by some beliefs or hit pause with a belief that I don't deserve joy or something. If it is the one infinite self recognizing itself, nothing can stop it. It will fulfill its desire to recognize itself. It is fulfilling its desire, even now, as this satsang, right? And all the teachings that are going on across the cosmos. So it is like this, absolutely. But it is very strange to what we have thought reality was, very different. But still exactly how it is. Thank you. Thank you for writing that so well. Thanks, Becky.
Something has happened to me lately after meditation. I started having disturbing dreams. First, I would wake up with a fluttering heart, but lately, even though the dreams are disturbing, when I wake up, the heart stays calm. But now I feel what I felt in the heart in the solar plexus. Can you help me? Thank you.
So this is really quite normal, but can be a little challenging. So as you meditate and see clearer who you are, the old ideas about yourself are going to come to the surface. And when we thought we were a separate person, we found many ways to avoid looking at those things. Our fears, our doubts, our the way we judge ourselves and others, all of that. We don't want to look at it as a separate self because there's no way to resolve it. So when we start to realize who we really are, we have to notice these ways of avoiding things. And the first way we'll see things sometimes is in the dream state. So these dreams can begin to happen and they can be unsettling. For me, there were a lot of dreams where I was scared or felt like I was dying. Not everyone has to experience this, of course. And the more that we're willing to look at something in the waking state, what are my fears and doubts that's still from my old idea of who I am, the less we'll have to experience them in unconscious ways, like in the dream state. So it's still the same work we're doing here, but it comes out in the dream first. But if we want to look at it in the waking state, then we can free ourselves of it through some contemplation or even just seeing it. And as you pointed to here, even when we have these kind of dreams, we're noticing more and more that our real self is not disturbed. It can just watch even the body become agitated and fearful. It will just watch lovingly and it can't get involved with the agitation. It just is here. And that gives the body a sense of calming down then. So our real nature will eventually override these fluctuations in the body, these changes in the body. So when we first begin to notice, we might notice it's something to do with loving ourselves. We might feel it in the heart area. And then as we sort of resolve that, realizing we are worthy of love, we are love, we might notice other places in the body. So for me, the solar plexus area was a huge challenge, a strong sense of doing, a doer as a separate person who has to do a lot of things to reach awakening. And I had to look at that then too. Am I doing anything actually? Or is this all just happening in front of me, this awakening? If I am the consciousness, I am already free. So by where it is in the body, you can get a sense of what type of thought we're believing and start to unravel it there. So hope that helps. Thanks, Becky.
How can we love the misfortunes of the world, the murderers, the rapists? Does evil exist, and how to love it? And the parts we don't like about ourselves, do we love them? When a person loses control, that which is expressed in that moment. I have heard a lot the sentence, that is not you. Is it or is it not part of the whole? Can we love it?
Thanks, Becky, and thanks for reading so well. We'll leave the questions there. Thank you so much. So only when we recognize who we really are can we actually love the parts of ourselves that we don't like. And only when we realize who we really are can we love the things that are going on in the world that we do not condone. So loving them doesn't mean condoning or accepting. It means loving them, understanding why a person would act that way, why someone would do some violence or whatever. And to answer your question, yes, it's all part of the wholeness, from the highest saint or sage to the murderer or whoever. It's all the infinite oneness appearing. But as we were saying in one of the previous questions, when the consciousness has not yet recognized itself, that it's not separate to anyone, it will feel alone and scared, and it will fear the end of its existence. And so it will do everything it can to feel safe, to feel in control. If I think I'm alone in the world and there's all these other beings and things that I can't control, I'm going to feel scared. Whether I feel it consciously or not, it will be in there, in the system. So there's no such thing as evil. But there is, when the truth of our real being is being so disallowed, it cannot shine through the mind or body because of all the thoughts being believed. The first one being, I'm a separate person. Then the light of the consciousness is diminished almost to nothing. And it looks like evil. It looks like hatred, violence, judgment. But there is no opposite to truth, to consciousness. There is only consciousness, just like a really bright light. And each thought, I believe, is turning down the brightness. And then over time, I'm believing so many thoughts that I don't seem to be conscious at all of who I am. And I might even harm others, try to harm others in order to feel better. I might not even be aware that my actions affect other beings. So as it starts to recognize who it is, the infinite consciousness, it will begin to look like love and compassion and patience. But these are just all on a sliding scale. With up here, the infinite self has recognized itself. Down here, it is deeply unconscious of who it really is. When the truth is seen, there's no way to hurt any other being. But just to be clear, evil doesn't exist on its own at all. It is only when the truth is not being allowed and is not being seen. So I hope that that helps. Just to remind one more time, loving something does not mean liking it. It doesn't mean accepting it. It doesn't mean condoning it. In fact, we might be even more strongly moved to do something about it and able to do something. But loving is understanding what would bring a person to act that way. So, okay. So I want to open it up now to Spanish-speaking community. If you would like to ask a question, I'm going to turn off the interpretation now, and then Pilar can help me translate. Thank you. Okay, wonderful.
Muy bien.
Thank you. So, Sarah?
Sara?
Sí, se me escucha.
Sí, se te escucha.
Gracias. Gracias, Pilar. Gracias, Helen, Pilar, por hacer posible en español
Thank you, Helen and
esta
Pilar, to
experiencia.
make it possible in Spanish.
Thank you.
Gracias por la sencillez y claridad de lo que nos brindas.
Thank you for the simplicity and clarity of what you teach us.
tengo confusión de en qué estado estoy.
I'm
Estado, no sé si llamarlo así.
I'm a bit confused of in which state I am. Maybe it's not state the proper word.
He experimentado muchas de las cosas y he tenido muchas realizaciones, mucho de lo que cuentas y de lo que expresan otras personas.
I have experienced many things. I have even have revelations of what you talk about and other persons talk about.
Sin embargo, me siento como estancada, bloqueada, atrapada.
But I feel I am like stuck, like I cannot move.
No puedo salir de la mente.
I cannot go out of the mind.
He experimentado también vacíos mentales,
I also
como
experience
falta de memoria.
emptiness in my mind, like a lack of memory.
Salvo cuando trabajo como psicóloga y terapeuta,
I work as psychologist and therapist.
cuando hablo con mis pacientes, eh,
When I talk with my patients,
me expreso de formas que hasta yo no
I
reconozco en
express myself as forms that even I don't recognize myself.
ahí no tengo ningún vacío.
There I don't have any lack.
Me encantaría poder hacer una autoindagación contigo.
I would like to do self-inquiry with you.
Absolutely. So let's look for what you are right now.
Vamos a hacerlo, vamos a ver quién eres, qué eres tú ahora.
What do you find when you look for yourself?
¿Qué encuentras cuando te buscas?
Cuando me busco como Sara, me encuentro que no sé dónde estoy, no existo. Más allá de eso,
When I look for myself as Sarah, I find I don't know what am I don't exist.
You don't exist as an object, as a person,
No existes como objeto, como persona,
but you do
exacto.
exist as something else, right?
pero existes como otra cosa, ¿no es así?
Sí, como algo insustancial.
With something without substance.
And how big is that something without substance?
¿Y cómo de grande es eso insustancial?
Infinito,
¿Perdón?
infinito.
Infinite. Infinite.
The one word I know in Spanish.
Es la única palabra que sé en español.
So, can you be blocked
Entonces, ¿puedes tú estar bloqueada
or stuck?
o estancada?
No. Sé también que no soy hacedora, que no tengo nada que hacer,
I know
que
as
ya soy
well
lo que soy.
I am not the doer, I have nothing to do, that I am already what I am.
Is
Pero a
anything
veces me entro en la película y me pierdo.
But sometimes I enter into the dream and I get lost.
so? Let's be really clear here. Do you enter into the dream?
Vamos a verlo aquí muy claro. ¿Eres tú realmente la que entras al sueño, a
This
la
that you
película?
are, this
Esto que tú eres,
insubstantial,
esto insustancial,
does it get lost in
se
the dream?
pierde en el sueño.
No. No.
So what problems do you have now then?
Entonces, ¿qué problemas tienes ahora?
Ahora ninguno.
Now, none.
And when a dream appears, when the mind is busy and the body gets tense,
Y cuando aparece el sueño, la mente, el cuerpo se tensa y la mente se ocupa mucho.
What has happened to you?
¿Qué te ha ocurrido a ti?
Tengo miedo.
I am fearful.
That's okay. It's very normal.
Es muy normal.
Just feeling it the best you can.
Siéntelo lo mejor que puedas.
Are you the one who is getting lost and then coming back again?
¿Eres tú la que te pierdes y luego vuelves?
No.
Always free, right?
Siempre eres libre, ¿no es así?
Sí.
Yes.
Taking a deep breath, just taking a deep breath with me.
Toma una respiración profunda aquí conmigo.
Mind is the one waking up and getting lost.
La mente es la que se está despertando y luego perdiéndose.
You are so free. You can even imagine you're lost.
Tú eres tan libre que incluso puedes imaginar que estás perdida.
Mucha imaginación.
I have a lot of imagination, yes.
Yes, infinite.
Infinita.
And when you imagine you're lost, it feels so real
Y cuando te imaginas que estás perdida se siente tan real
because you are reality.
porque tú eres la realidad.
But just to confirm like this again and again until it's done.
Pero confírmalo esto de esta manera una y otra vez hasta que ya se haya resuelto.
That even when mind is busy and there's some emotion, you're still free.
Que incluso aunque la mente esté ocupada y sientas alguna emoción, tú sigues siendo libre.
No sé.
I know.
And just to remind yourself of this a few times,
Recuérdate esto varias veces.
just to see it a few times. I'm still free. I'm still free.
Reconócelo una y otra vez. Todavía soy libre, soy libre.
Until we lose the capacity to imagine anything else.
Hasta que perdemos la capacidad de imaginar ninguna otra cosa.
Has the fear gone?
¿Se ha ido el miedo?
Sí.
Beautiful.
Contento, alegría, emoción.
A lot of emotion, but just being glad and joy.
Joy, yes. Joy comes from seeing you've always been free.
La alegría viene de reconocer que siempre has sido libre.
And it's still a little bit of a shock also.
Y también hay como un choque ahí.
We've imagined for so long that we have to find our way home, and it's not true.
Hemos imaginado por mucho tiempo que teníamos que encontrar el camino de vuelta a casa, y no es verdad.
Right now, free like me, right?
Ahora mismo eres libre, igual que yo, ¿no?
Sí. Mucho tiempo he pensado que me faltaba algo.
For a long time I thought I was lacking something.
A los 6 años sentía que no pertenecía a este mundo.
When I
Esperaba que
was
alguien me recoja.
when I was 6, I thought I didn't belong to this world, and I was waiting for someone to pick me up.
Have you ever been 6?
¿Alguna vez has tenido 6 años?
No.
It's a good story we tell ourselves, right?
Es una buena película la que nos contamos, ¿no?
But I know
Sí.
what you mean. I know that feeling too.
Pero sé lo que quieres decir, reconozco esa sensación, sí.
And we get to enjoy the recognition we've always been free.
Y llegamos a disfrutar el reconocimiento de que siempre hemos sido libres.
And the sense of coming home too.
Y esa sensación también de volver a casa.
Well done with this self-inquiry.
Muy bien hecho con la autoindagación.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful. Would anyone else like to ask a question?
¿Alguien más quiere hacer alguna pregunta?
Elaine?
Is it okay? I'm not a Spanish speaker.
¿Está
we-
bien, aunque no sea española?
Is
Can we
someone else
just, yeah, can we just wait and see if there are other people that need translation first? Thanks.
Vamos a esperar por si hay alguna otra persona que necesite traducción.
Anyone else that would like to ask something that needs translation?
¿Alguien que necesite traducción y quiera preguntar algo?
Christina? Yeah. You're still muted there.
Tienes que activar el micrófono.
Gracias. Voy a hacer una pregunta que no tengo preparada, por lo tanto, no, a ver si puedo expresarla correctamente.
I am going to ask a question that I didn't prepare, so let's see if I can express myself correctly.
I like these ones best.
Me gustan más estas preguntas.
Quisiera exponer algo que me ocurre.
I want to expose something that is happening to me.
Desde niña tengo problemas de piel. A nivel
Since I was a
físico.
child, I have problems with the skin.
Y aunque he estado hospitalizada incluso varias veces,
I even have
Parece-
been into the hospital.
parece que hay momentos en los que necesito absolutamente rascarme.
And there are moments in which I have to scratch my skin. Absolutely.
Nunca, y ahora estoy empezando a ver, o a plantearme, si es que
Now I am beginning to think if it is
en alguna parte de mi mente
somewhere in my mind
necesita sentir el cuerpo.
it needs to feel the body.
Es como si incluso aún que haya dolor,
It's even even if it is pain,
ese dolor, porque me produce, ahora no tanto, pero me ha producido heridas importantes, eso hace que conecte con mi parte física, con mi energía física.
if this pain, not so much now, but sometimes I had even important hurt in the body, that if this pain is connecting me with the physical body, with the physical part of myself.
Y no entiendo por qué me ocurre esto.
I don't understand why is this happening.
¿Qué es lo que está mal colocado, ¿no? Para que necesite sentir esa energía del cuerpo. No, es que no lo acabo de entender.
Is this something wrong so that I need to feel that energy of the body?
Anything that's happening to our physical body has a emotional part of it too, and a belief.
Todo lo que nos sucede en el cuerpo físico tiene un componente emocional y de creencia.
And the reason we have a physical body is to show us what's inside our consciousness still.
Y la razón por la que tenemos un cuerpo físico es para mostrarnos que todavía estamos albergando en la conciencia.
And so anything that's happening to our body is really pointing to something that we don't want to see yet inside.
Todo lo que sucede en nuestro cuerpo está indicándonos a algo que todavía no queremos ver en el interior.
So usually there's some kind of emotion there that we just don't really want to look at.
Normalmente hay algún tipo de emoción a la que realmente no queremos mirar.
So are you aware of any emotion that comes with this?
¿Eres consciente de alguna emoción que venga con esto?
It could be embarrassment,
Puede
because
ser
I'm
estar
itching,
avergonzada porque te pica,
fear that I might, be really sick or something.
miedo de estar realmente enferma o algo.
Actualmente lo que pasa es que no conecto con ninguna emoción. Yo no conecto con ninguna emoción. Tal vez la esté bloqueando.
Right now I don't connect with any emotion. Maybe I am blocking them.
And that's okay. We all have ways of avoiding emotions when we think we are a separate person.
Es normal, tenemos todos formas de evitar las emociones cuando pensamos que somos una persona separada.
So we've had to avoid them because we didn't know how to heal it or feel it.
Hemos tenido que evitarlas porque no sabíamos cómo sanarlas.
But now, as the infinite self, we have to turn that around and a willingness to see them.
Pero ahora, como el ser infinito, tenemos que darle la vuelta a esto y tenemos que estar dispuestos a verlas.
So it might just be helpful to just gently ask the question, what is it I don't want to feel?
Así que quizás te ayude el hacerte la pregunta, ¿qué es lo que no quiero sentir?
And you might just become aware of some emotion there that is deep inside.
Y quizás te hagas consciente de alguna emoción que está profundo en el interior.
And when we're willing to feel it emotionally, the body doesn't have to tell us anymore.
Y una vez que estemos dispuestos a sentirlo emocionalmente, ya el cuerpo no tiene por qué decírnoslo más.
And it's totally normal. We have all survived as a separate person by avoiding feeling.
Y es totalmente normal, todos hemos sobrevivido como una persona separada, evitando el sentir.
But now we have to cultivate a willingness to feel it again.
Pero ahora
Gently.
tenemos que cultivar suavemente esa disposición a volver a sentir.
And recognizing that it's happening because we're able to feel it as the infinite self.
Y reconocer que está sucediendo porque ahora sí estamos dispuestos a sentirlos como el ser infinito.
There's strength and willingness here in who we really are.
Hay fuerza y hay esa disposición en lo que somos realmente.
And who we really are wants to see these things. He wants to heal them.
Y lo que realmente somos quiere ver estas cosas y quiere sanarlas.
And that's why it's happening now, right? It's coming up to be seen and to be loved and healed.
Y por eso está sucediendo ahora, para ser visto y amado y sanado.
Realmente llevo años, muchos años pensando qué es lo que no quiero ver, qué es lo que no puedo sentir.
I am already several years really thinking, what is that I don't want to know or feel?
Hay una serie de cosas que se mezclan también con ideas, o sea, puede haber emociones, pero que también están mezcladas con pensamientos intelectuales sobre el tema.
There may be some emotions, but they are also mixed with some thinking, with thoughts about the intellectual thought about the subject.
Okay, so just separate the thoughts from the emotions and just writing down what emotions you feel.
Separa el pensamiento de la emoción y escribe qué emoción sientes.
Thinking about emotions is a good way to not feel them.
Pensar sobre las emociones es una buena manera de evitarlas, de
And we're,
evitar
we're very
sentirlas.
good at avoiding them.
Y somos muy buenos en evitarlo.
And mind says, oh, yes, I know this. Yeah.
La mente dice, sí, ya lo conozco.
So just making a list of the emotions you feel
Así que simplemente haz esa lista de las emociones que sientes
and then starting with the biggest or loudest emotion
y empieza con la más gorda, la que más se oiga
or the one you feel most often
o la que sientas más a menudo
and saying, what does it want to tell me?
y pregunta, ¿qué me quiere decir?
And not going up here, what does it want to tell me?
Y no te vayas a la cabeza, ¿qué quiere decirme ahí en el corazón?
And I had to do this too, and fear said I wasn't safe.
Y yo tuve que hacerlo, el miedo me decía que no estaba a salvo.
Sadness said, I'll never be happy.
La tristeza que nunca seré feliz.
Other emotions with other beliefs, but I had to turn towards these things as my real self.
Y otras emociones con otras creencias, pero yo tuve que enfrentarme a ello como el ser real.
It's like changeover in how we it's like a changeover in how we behave with these emotions. We have to fall back in love with them.
Es como un cambio en cómo nos comportamos con las emociones. Tenemos que volver a amarlas.
Not liking them, but loving
Aunque no
them.
nos gusten, pero amarlas.
Can you feel something soften inside?
¿Puedes sentir algo que se reblandece en tu interior?
Sí, ha venido el pensamiento, claro, para poderlo expresar, de la desconexión. Esto es algo que me ha acompañado toda la vida, el sentirme desconectada del mundo.
It came to my mind now, the feeling of being disconnected. I have it all my life, being disconnected from the world.
From the world and from me.
Del mundo,
Del mundo y de mí, del mundo, pero también de mí como ser completo, como sistema.
From me as well as a complete being, as a system.
So why, and maybe you can't answer this right now, but why would you want to disconnect from you?
Y quizás no lo puedas contestar ahora, pero ¿por qué que podrías haber querido desconectar de ti misma?
It must be on some level that I don't like myself, or I don't think I'm good enough.
En algún nivel tiene que ser porque no me gusto a mí misma o pienso que no estoy lo suficientemente buena.
Seguramente.
Most probably.
And if I don't like myself, I want to avoid the world too, so they don't find out that I'm not good enough.
Y si no me gusto a mí misma, también evito el mundo para que ellos no se den cuenta de que no soy lo suficientemente buena.
And these ideas are just coming back up now as an idea, an emotion, and the body telling us.
Y esto ahora está surgiendo como una idea, una emoción y el cuerpo que nos lo dice.
And the body tells us so that we can't ignore it.
Y el cuerpo nos lo dice de una manera para que no podamos ignorarlo.
So just feeling inside and taking some time to begin to look at how our mind feels about ourselves.
Entonces mira en tu interior y mira cómo tu mente se siente sobre ti misma, tu ser.
Consciously we know we are love and we are formless and all of that. But unconsciously something inside is still very scared and contracted.
Conscientemente sabemos que somos amor y todo eso, pero inconscientemente algo se siente con mucho miedo.
El rechazo.
Rejection.
Yeah. It was the same. It was the same for me. I hated myself, rejected everything about myself.
Fue lo mismo para mí. Yo me odiaba a mí misma y rechazaba todo sobre mí misma.
And I had to look at that and really inquire into it.
Y tuve que hacer la indagación en esto.
hay algo que no sé si viene a cuento. Para mí, a nivel de comprensión, sí que viene. No sé si lo puedo compartir de forma breve.
There is something that I don't know if it has to do with this, but I think it has. So if I can share it shortly.
Durante una época de mi vida hice regresiones.
For a while in my life, I was making regressions.
Fue algo que vino a mí. Yo no tenía ninguna simpatía por el tema de las regresiones, pero es algo que me llegó y lo comencé a hacer.
Something that came to me, I didn't really look for it.
Y hubo un intento de regresión fetal.
And there was a trial to go in the regression to the fetal moment.
Y por resumir, llegué a la conclusión de que mi madre tenía muchísimo miedo cuando se quedó embarazada de mí, porque el hijo anterior había fallecido en su vientre a los 10 meses.
And the conclusion that was that my mother was so afraid when she was pregnant with me because the previous child died when he was 10 months inside the belly,
The womb.
the womb.
Y en esa regresión, lo que ocurrió es que cuando se supone que yo o ese feto tenía más entre 0 y 3 meses en el vientre de la madre.
In that moment in the regression, when I was like between 0 and 3 months in the womb,
empezó a llegar un gran sufrimiento a mí.
It came to me great suffering.
Una enorme presión en la cabeza, muchísimo sufrimiento.
I felt something really in my head and a lot of suffering.
Y al cabo de un poco, yo sentí que mi pecho se abría.
And I
O si
felt
me
my
abrieran una
chest
cremallera.
opening up, like with a opening.
Zip.
Zip, yes.
Sin dolor.
Without any pain.
Sin dolor físico.
Without physical pain. No.
Y todo ese sufrimiento tan grande que yo tenía desapareció.
And all the suffering so big that I had just disappeared.
Y continué con el embarazo,
so
pero como si no estuviera allí, sin sufrir nada.
But I felt I was not there. I didn't suffer at all.
La regresión no hizo todo su recorrido. Esto es lo que yo aprendí.
So this is what I learned from the regression.
Mi pensamiento es que mi madre sufría muchísimo, que yo percibí el sufrimiento de mi madre y no pude soportarlo y me marché, de alguna forma. Bloqueé el sufrimiento.
What I think is that in that moment I was perceiving the suffering from my mother, so I just blocked it, I just went out.
Hasta aquí es la historia que quería.
So this is what I wanted to share, yeah.
If I feel deep down that I've caused suffering to my mother, that she's been scared during the pregnancy, I'm gonna not like myself, right? Or something.
Sí, siento en mi profundidad de que he causado un daño a mi madre durante el embarazo y esto pues me voy a rechazar, voy a cerrarme.
And that's going to be so painful that I can't feel it. I won't feel it.
Y eso será tan doloroso que no lo querré sentir, no lo voy a sentir.
But now we can resolve it realizing you and your mother are the same being.
Ahora lo podemos solucionar dándote cuenta que tú y tu madre sois el mismo ser.
And that you would never cause harm
Y
intentionally.
que tú nunca causaste daño de forma intencional.
That there's no separate person doing.
No hay ninguna persona separada haciendo.
So just sitting with all of this and feeling the emotion when you can. and letting it all just come up.
Siéntate con todo esto y sintiendo la emoción tanto como puedas y deja que todo surja.
Ya lo
These
estoy
things-
sintiendo ahora.
I'm already feeling it, yes.
Yeah, these things are buried so deep because we've had to.
Estas cosas han quedado tan profundas porque tenía que ser así.
There's no way to resolve it when we think we are two separate beings.
No hay forma de resolverlas cuando pensamos que somos dos seres separados.
And the idea that I caused harm to another being seems so real.
Y la idea de que he causado daño a otro ser se parece tan real.
So it can only be healed when we realize there's only one being.
Y solo puede ser sanada cuando nos damos cuenta que solo hay un único ser.
Thank you for being so brave. and sharing
Gracias
this.
por ser tan valiente en compartir.
Wonderful.
Muchas gracias a ti. No había pensado en este enfoque.
Thanks to you, I didn't think of this way of looking at it.
Thank you. I've had plenty of practice at this.
He practicado mucho con todo.
Lots and lots.
Mucha práctica.
A lot
Thank
of times.
Okay, we'll leave it there for today because it's quite a long session. Oh, Pilar, can you do one more?
Yeah.
One last one?
Yes.
Thank you. But we'll go to Raquel and then we'll finish for today.
Vamos a acabar con Raquel por hoy.
We can't hear you. I don't know.
Raquel, no podemos escucharte. Ha sucedido lo mismo. So, no te escuchamos. No.
Oh. Can we hear you now?
No podéis.
Ahora.
Yeah. No, you need to
Fue
speak.
unos segundos. Tienes que quitarte los auriculares.
I think we're good now.
Ahora te habla.
Nope.
No.
¿No me escucháis?
Yeah.
Ahora sí. Sí.
Sí. Ahora,
Sí.
ahora no os escucho yo.
She cannot hear us now.
Os escucho tan
It's one or the
bajito.
other.
Bueno, lo intento.
I will try.
Can you
Es
hear?
que la conversación con Cristina me ha
Okay.
resonado muchísimo y de repente he empezado a relacionar otras cosas. Yo le había dado otro enfoque a lo que me estaba sucediendo y quería contrastarlo con Helen.
The talk with Christina
Entonces,
bring to me some other things that I didn't look like this, and I wanted to check with you.
Okay.
y es que desde que estoy con la profundización y estoy trabajando con la presencia, estoy trabajando con el hacedor, estoy sintiendo que no hago, estoy sintiendo una expansión y va prácticamente todo solo.
Since I am working with the presence, with the doer challenge, I feel that I am not the one doing, and I feel that everything is being doing by itself. But
Y me han ocurrido varios episodios de perder la conciencia, que me decían que era como golpes de calor, que nunca me había pasado.
it happened to me in several occasions that I lost consciousness. They told me that it was this because of the heat. It has never happened to me before.
Y en mi historia hay una creencia que es que soy tonta, que no estoy suficiente y además tengo una sistémica familiar de Alzheimer y de pérdida de cabeza. Entonces quizás sea algo que se está activando ahí.
In my history, that is like a family history of Alzheimer and all these things that you lost your head, and I have this feeling, this belief that I am silly, that I'm not good enough, all these things, and maybe there is something there.
Do you feel any fear when you are meditating or spiritual practice?
¿Sientes miedo cuando estás meditando o haciendo la práctica espiritual?
No soy consciente de sentir miedo, al revés, es una sensación de liberación, pero puede ser que sí que tengo un miedo a que cuando estoy en esa sensación pierda la cabeza.
I am not conscious of a fear, it's just the opposite, but there is a fear that when I am there, I can lost my head, lost consciousness.
Meaning, when you are there means what?
¿Qué quieres decir con que cuando estoy
Sí,
ahí?
cuando siento esa expansión y es como si la cabeza no estuviera activa, como si no participara y siento, es una conexión con todo y es como si no sintiera el cuerpo ni la cabeza. Y ahí sí que aparece un miedo a perder, a no controlar, a perder la cabeza.
When I am feeling this expansion, I don't feel the body, I don't feel the head. And then in that moment, there is like a fear of losing my head, losing consciousness, losing control, in fact.
Okay, so two things to really look at.
Dos cosas que tienes que mirar.
The first is that you can't lose control if you never had it as a separate person.
La primera es que no puedes perder el control porque nunca lo tuviste como una persona separada.
This is an old idea that is asking you to look at it now.
Esa es una vieja idea que necesita ser revisada, te está pidiendo que la revises.
And the losing consciousness is probably because I don't want to look at this.
Y perder la conciencia probablemente es porque no quiero mirar esto.
Second thing,
Lo segundo,
you have ultimate control. You are that from which the universe is arising.
tienes el control absoluto, eres eso de donde el universo surge.
And you've always been this, so nothing is changing.
Y siempre lo ha sido, así que no está cambiando nada.
Our mind is fearful because it says if I let go into this seeing, I'll lose all control.
La mente tiene miedo porque piensa, si me dejo ir ahí, voy a perder todo el control.
But nothing is changing, actually. There never was a separate self. It's always been the infinite self.
No cambia nada nunca, porque nunca hubo un ser separado, todo estaba sucediendo en el ser infinito.
In fact, it's going to get even better because you can finally live free.
Incluso va a mejorar porque finalmente podrás vivir libre.
The fear is because an imaginary person fears losing control.
El miedo es porque una persona imaginaria
And it's
tiene
just
miedo de perder el
thoughts.
control y está solo en los pensamientos.
Can you lose control? Did you have control even?
¿Puedes tú perder el control? ¿Acaso tienes el control?
Not as a separate person, but only as the infinite being.
No como una persona separada, solo como el ser infinito.
And you cannot be more in control than that.
Entonces no puedes estar más en control de todo.
You're controlling everything.
Controlas todo.
Totally safe.
Estás totalmente a salvo.
So just to see this again and again, because our old way of thinking is very persistent.
Reconoce esto una y otra vez porque nuestra vieja forma de pensar es muy persistente.
And the fear will go.
Y el miedo se irá.
Nothing is changing.
No cambia nada.
Only clear seeing.
Solo en ver claro.
Wonderful.
Yo pensaba que como empatizo mucho, era lo que sentía mi madre o lo que sentía toda mi familia cuando perdía un poco la cabeza. Pero realmente me he dado cuenta que es mi propio miedo.
I thought as my mother and my family was feeling the same, that I was like being like them. But in fact, I see it's just only my fear, my own fear.
And everyone has that along the journey. I'm going to lose myself to the self. You know?
Y todo el mundo lo tiene a lo largo del camino. Voy a perderme a mí misma para fundirme en el todo, en el ser.
But it's always been the infinite self showing up as Raquel.
Pero siempre ha sido el único ser infinito el que estaba mostrándose como Raquel.
Nothing's changing.
no cambia nada.
Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And just a quick thank you to Pilar, a huge thank you, Pilar, for all you do, and to Becky also for reading.
Gracias a Pilar y a Becky por leer también.
Wonderful. My other bodies that speak Spanish. Yay.
Mis otros cuerpos que hablan español.
Thank you so much. Namaste. Wonderful.